Hello, everyone, and welcome to lectionaryq. My name is Dennis Sanders. I am the pastor of First Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, in St. Paul, Minnesota. And as I like to say every week, the Q stands for questions. That's what I try to do every week. I take one or two of the scriptures from the Revised Common Lectionary, and I have a reflection, and I ask some questions. This is part of my preparation for preaching, and I hope that it can help other preachers as they prepare for their Sunday sermons. I also hope that it can help people who may not be preaching, just to give them some thoughts of what is coming up in the lectionary text. So, either way, I hope that this is of help to you. And as I always like to say, this is always an occasional podcast because I try to do this every week, but being someone that is bivocational, you're not always able to do this every week. I am actually recording this rather later than usual, so you almost didn't get this for this week. So I always want to tell people that this is an occasional podcast and not a weekly one, just so people don't become disappointed if they don't see it one week. But anyway, let's look at the texts that are upcoming for this coming Sunday. This Sunday is December 7th, 2025, which is the second Sunday of Advent. And like last week, we are looking at two texts, not just one. So we're looking at Isaiah 11, 1 through 10, and those will be the questions. And our reflection this week is going to be focused on the third chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, verses 1 through 12. And so I'll start with the reflection, and then we will go with the questions. So there has always been something about John the Baptist that has always bothered me. It is not the choice of his clothing. I mean, if you want to wear camel's hair clothing, go right ahead. I am not going to be a judge. And it's not the choice of his diet. I mean, I've eaten bugs before. I think they're actually a good choice of protein. And hey, eating honey, that's probably better than eating sugar. And it's not even the choice of his living arrangements. Choosing to live not in town, maybe off the grid, out in the desert, that's a good choice. I'm okay with that. What bothers me is his calling people a brood of vipers. I mean, what happened to the Christmas spirit? Of course, this is Advent, so there is no Christmas spirit, at least not yet. But let's be honest, this message feels off-putting. Yes, it involves him calling out the Sadducees and Pharisees. These are the religious leaders that are in the Gospels are constantly challenging Jesus. But it seems like they are actually coming out to be baptized for repentance. So why did he chew them out? This seems like really bad pastoral care. What we see happening here is a reminder of the season, because this is not as much about chestnuts roasting on an open fire as it is, well, something roasting on an open fire. Advent is really about a season of penance. And John the Baptist is a very vivid example of that. And because it's a season of penance or penitence, that means it's a season of judgment. And let's be honest, we people of the 21st century do not like to hear the word judgment because it brings to mind that meme that you've no doubt seen on social media of those 18th century men in the wigs with their noses held up high in the air. Judgment always seems to have that air of smugness attached to it. And it isn't that hard to read that into John's tirade. And judgment also has that sense of wanting to see someone get what's coming to them. And we read that in this text and how John speaks to the religious leaders. And deep down, there has to be a sense of relish that that John is giving them the what for. But I have to wonder, how does this look through the eyes of grace? Does grace even fit in anywhere in this text? And I think it does, because Think about it. Nowhere in this text does it say that John ever refused to baptize the religious leaders. Yeah, he gave them a hard time, but he didn't turn them away. Instead, he tells them and the rest of the crowd to not rely on their ancestry, or if we put it in modern parlance, not to rely on what we've done or who we are. He's saying that we can only rely on God. Judgment isn't about making us feel bad. It's not about being tantamount to some kind of velvet rope at an exclusive club, deciding who gets in and who doesn't. It's not about necessarily the eternal fires of hell either. Jesus, he tells us, John the Baptist tells us that he's going to baptize with water. That's what he's doing in this text. But the one that's coming after him, Jesus, is going to baptize with fire. Now, fire can destroy. But fire can also do something else. It can purify. It can get rid of the bad parts, kind of leaving what's good. John Fisher is a writer and singer. He's kind of considered one of the founders of contemporary Christian music. And he was one of my favorite writers, especially in college. And he once wrote about how much he marveled at his wife. His wife believed in a God that had this way of looking at people, that believed and wanted to believe that God could just remove just the bad parts of people so that we could all live together in peace and harmony. And that was such a different kind of faith than the faith that he grew up in, that believed that there were just whole sectors of people that were just no good and were hellbound. The judgment that God brings isn't fun. But the funny thing is that it's not the end either. In fact, it is a step in the road towards grace. It's a judgment that refines us, allowing us to bear fruit that is worthy of repentance. Now, John the Baptist probably isn't the guy that you're going to have a beer with, let alone a cup of coffee. But he is the guy who will tell you the truth about yourself. And more importantly, the one who will point you to the one who is to come for you and for the whole world. All right, here are the questions, and the questions are from Isaiah 11, 1 through 10. So, what is the significance of a shoot coming out of a stump? Question number 2. The text in Matthew also talks about a tree. Comparing this to our text in Isaiah, what are the similarities and what are the differences? Question 3. Verses 6 through 8 share images of predators and prey coming together in peace. How does that relate to the modern day? And finally, number 4, verse 10 refers to a day, like a certain day. What day do you think that the writer is referring to? Okay, so what are your answers to these questions? And do you have your own questions? I'd love to hear either one of those. And feel free, if you want, to send me your answers, and you can do that to lectionaryq, all one word, at substack.com. That is it for this episode of Lectionary Q. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully I will be back for the third week, third Sunday of Advent. This is moving by pretty fast. And I hope that you have a good upcoming Sunday. God be with you as you head up and prepare to preach the word. And I will see you next week. Godspeed, everyone. This is Dennis Sanders, your host. Take care, Godspeed, and I will see you next time.